All right, so this week is week 1 of a multi-week project. We are going to make the dolls a fireplace. It'll be fun to decorate it for Christmas and throughout the year. If you've got I know a lot of my viewers have built doll houses or doll rooms for their 18-inch dolls, and this will be a lot of fun to put in there. So this week we are working with some foam core, some glue, some paint, some egg cartons, and we're making the base. And then the next week or two we'll be doing more. So stay tuned and see how this part comes together. Alright, so we are going to start our fireplace. We are going to make the guts of the fireplace, so to speak, out of foam core. I buy my foam core at Dollar Tree generally. I actually have gotten so I like the Dollar Tree foam core better than the stuff from the craft store, and it's a lot cheaper. So I've cut 2 pieces that are 11 by 11 inch squares. I have 2 pieces, I've got these all mixed up. 2 pieces that are 10.5 by 3.5 and 2 at 10.5 by 3. I have 4 that are 7.5 by 2.25 and 4 that are 7.5 by 3. And the cutting list will all be in the blog post. I also have white glue. I just have some Elmer's glue today. And I have some just plain flat-headed dressmaker pins, like sewing pins. Just inexpensive ones. I always use those to reinforce my joints. So we're going to take the 4 pieces that are 10.5 inches. I'm going to adjust the camera here just a bit. And I'm using I don't know if I said I'm using Elmer's glue. So I'm going to run a bead of Elmer's glue, and it doesn't have to be straight, down one edge of this. I'm working on a piece of parchment paper because this is my good sewing cutting mat. And I don't want to get glue all over it. Now I've got a 10.5 by a 3.5 piece. I'm going to take a 10.5 by 3. I'm going to line it up on that edge, kind of wiggle it around. I'm going to slide this around and see if I can put this where you can see. To help hold that seam, I am going to run these pins through the foam core. Trying to do this so that I can see and I'm not lined up. It's another one of those jobs where generally I would have my head right over what I'm doing, but I want you to be able to see too. There. The pin is inside of this, it goes through there. Get them as close to the edge as you can, get your pieces lined up. We don't want them to come out, we want them to stay inside the foam core. Now some people take these pins out. Personally, I always leave them in. I think it makes my structures a lot stronger when the pins are left in. Now, we're going to run a bead of glue. We're going to alternate our sizes, so we're going to take the other 3.5 inch wide piece is going to go here. And it's going to go right like this on top of this one. I want my piece, I'm going to put my part that says what size it is out this time so that I'll remember which size is which. Now we're going to line this back up and we're going to put some pins in now. I'm going to try and put them not into my fingers. Once you do a couple of these, and if you're not trying to do it on camera where you're trying to let the camera see what you're doing, this is really a simple way to do this. Oops, I made above my piece. And double check that your pins are inside and everything's level. All right, now we're going to take this piece glue is right there. I'm going to run the bead of glue here. And I'm going to run a bead of glue on this one. Make sure everything is lined up. This time you'll be able to see from the top down as I put the pin in. Just putting it in. Making sure it's going inside. Oops, that one tried to go out, so. This part of the construction will all be covered eventually. When we're done, these pieces aren't actually going to even show. Oops, I missed on that one. So we'll back that one out and fix it because we don't want that sticking out. A couple more. If this was any longer than the 10.5 inches, I would probably put 4 on each side. That's about as long as I'm going to go with just 3. All right, make sure your pins are not showing. And then take something that's hard. I've got my cutting knife here. I'm going to use the side of it. And I'm going to set those pins down. It's easier on my fingertips if I do it this way than if I try to use my finger. And now I'm going to repeat the same process using these. So each of these boxes will have 2 of the 2 1/4 and 2 of the 3-inch ones. We do the same exact process and make 2 more shapes very much like this, but with these pieces. And when the glue is dry, I'll be back and we'll move to the next step. All right, so our glue is set up quite a bit now, so we are going to start assembling our fireplace. And what I've done, I've taken a ruler and marked 1/4 inch line in on each side here. Now we are going to put some glue here. And we'll just use that. Now we're going to take the 3-inch side, and we want the 3-inch side to the side. Kind of use that to squirt that around. And we are going to line up the long edge of this with that 1/4 inch mark. And the bottom, we're going to line this edge up square. Once again, making sure our 2 1/4 inch edge is up and our 3-inch edge is this way. And that pin did not get pushed down, so that needs to be pushed down. Now this can sit there. Now we can put this on. Now this one is going to stick up about a 1/4 inch, about this much above this, and that's fine. So we're going to put glue here. Again, making sure our 3-inch is the one that's vertical and our 3.5 is on top. Line this up this way, line it up this way. Now I'm going to put this over, really straight. And I'm going to kind of eyeball this and push in some pins once again. So that this will stay where I want it. And over here. You're going to have to just eyeball these so you can get them lined up. And I will take a ruler and measure where my lines are. I'm going to line some pins up on these things that are lined up so that they line up with these. And then when this glue is dry, I will be back and we'll go to the next step. All right, so my glue is completely dry. So now I want to go along and cut this foam core out of that spot. It doesn't have to be perfect because your bricks are going to cover up some of this. And you can see where I went through and put more pins in and put that pin down. All right, now we're going to turn this over. We're going to spread glue on this side. I think for this, I guess I can do it this way. And if I was smart, I would have brought something to spread the glue out with. I think I can use one of these scraps of foam core. Now we're taking that other 11-inch square, lining it up on the bottom. Make sure that all looks square. And once again, I will go through and I will poke some pins down into this to help hold it. And I'm going to continue with the pins. When I get this glue dried, I will be back and we'll go to our next step. All right, so the glue here is set up. It's nice and dry. And we're going to make sure everything hopefully is level. And I suggest you measure this measurement. We know this is 11 because these were 11 inches square. This measurement, depending on your foam core, could vary. Mine is 3.5 inches. So I cut a piece of foam core 3.5 by 11. And I am going to put glue on all these surfaces, and I'm going to glue and pin this joint so that I have a nice finished bottom edge on my fireplace. There's going to be more under our fireplace, but this will finish the bottom of our what would be known as the firebox, what I would call the firebox of the fireplace. So I'm going to put glue all along this. It's okay if it doesn't match up perfectly. And once again, we're going to put this on. We're going to line up our edges. And we are going to pin as many pins as we need to make this stay put. You'll really notice how much more sturdy this structure is when you add the pins to it. So we're going to go through and make sure none of the pins, whoops, that one is coming out. That's a good example. Are coming, oh, it's not this. Oh, that's the head of the other one. That's what I thought. So I am going to pin this seam and let this glue set up, and then I will be back again. All right, now that we have our bottom of our firebox glued on and pinned and everything is set and stable, it's time to paint just this inside box area. This is what we call the firebox. This is where the little fire, you know, if it was a real fireplace, there'd be a fire in there. We'll make a little fake fire for it at the end. So we need to paint that black. I'm assuming that our fireplace has been used a lot. And we are actually going to paint this black, put some faux fire brick in there, and then paint it black again. But if we don't paint before we glue our fire brick in, we stand a chance of having white foam core showing. And since we're going to paint the whole area, I'm just going to squirt in some black craft paint and use a fairly soft brush, a fairly large soft brush, and get all those areas. You don't want it to come out on this part. We're going to paint this part different later after our fire brick are in place. You see, I'm going into all of those corners. You don't have to put, if this edge is sticking out a little, which mine is, and that's fine, I'm going to make the bricks come out just a little bit on the front. You don't have to coat the side. I think I will though, probably, just to make sure, because I'm not sure if my bricks will cover all of that. I had a little trouble getting into this area, and this is an area we really want to get coated. Alright, so I'm going to spread this paint around, get this entire inside area painted with a flat matte black paint, and when this is dry, I will be back and we'll start putting in our fire brick. Oh, and be sure that you're using an acrylic paint or something that is compatible with foam. Some paints, like aerosol paints, and I don't know if oil paint will or not, some things will melt the foam, so be very careful to use a water-based acrylic type paint on this. Okay, I'm going to finish painting and then I'll be back. Alright, so my paint is dry in here. I have glitter from a totally different project in here. Now we're going to put in some fire bricks, because the inside of a fireplace, the firebox would be lined with fire bricks. I make my bricks out of egg carton lids, and I'll talk to you a minute about that. But we're going to have two kinds of bricks on this project. We're going to have fire brick in here, and we're going to have our rustic old bricks on the outside. Now, I always paint the inside of my fireplace, including the surface of the fire bricks, in flat black. That way, when I put my fake fire in there, it will show up more. You can, and that makes my fireplace also look like it's a well-used, it's an older fireplace. It's been around for a long time. It's covered in soot in there. If you want your fireplace to look newer, you'll need to paint these before you glue them in. Paint them with a tan craft paint. Make sure you get the edges and the top. So what are these? These are made of egg cartons, the paper egg cartons. And check your egg cartons. I try to get all my cartons to have solid lids, not the ones that have the shape on the top. Some have more texture. I found that currently the ones I've got, and by the way, I save all my egg carton lids. Usually I only save the lids. The ones I've got now, the dozen size, have more texture than a bunch of my 18 egg count ones, dozen and a half count. So I decided to use those ones with less texture for my fire bricks. So I cut these 2 3/4 by 1 inch. I just want to add texture inside of here. And we're going to start at the bottom. And what I've got a brush, and I've got a little container, and I've got, if the lid isn't glued on, some Mod Podge. And I'm using matte Mod Podge. We are going to paint over this when we are all done. Oh, that's gotten glumpy. This is an older bottle. I like to pour it into a container because I may pick up black paint even though this is dry. Now make sure that the exterior of your egg carton, this side, is the side you glue down. This is the side we're going to use. Since I'm going to paint everything with black later, I don't need to worry about painting these first. And these are going to be, come on, go in. Yeah, they're going to fit. I'm going to fit mine fairly close together. Now remember, on your second row and every other row after that, should have cut these just a little bit shorter. I'm going to cut off just a little bit. Now, my first one for the next row, I'm going to cut in half. I'm going to try and cut it straight, because bricks are always laid alternating. And I'm going to need to cut a little bit off of each one of these, obviously, because a little too big. So I am going to continue. I'm going to glue in all of these. I'm going to let that glue dry. Then I'm going to do the sides. And when those are all in and dry, I'll come back and we'll go to the next step. Alright, so I've got my fire bricks in. They're not perfect, but they don't need to be, because I'm going to now paint this all black. My glue is pretty much dry. So I'm going to put another coat of black paint on over all of the inside. And when that's done, we've just got a couple more steps this week, and then we'll be waiting until next week to finish this. But the egg carton should take our paint really, really well. And what this will give is a lot of texture inside. So I'm going to finish painting this, and when the paint's dry, I'll be back. Alright, so my black paint is pretty much dry. The last thing we're going to do today is we are going to run some glue along this edge, because our ends are kind of open yet. And this glue does not want to spray to come out. And you might have to trim. I would suggest measuring. Now my measurement for mine is about 3 1/4 by 11. That fits in there pretty well. So put that in. I will pin it off camera. I want to show you this end. I've got is sunk down a little bit. So if I was to put this in, it would sink on that end. So I cut a little spacer. So I'm going to put that in. I'll glue this in, and then I'll glue that in just like I did the other end. This just needs to be held in so it doesn't move. So I'm going to glue the ends in, and then next week we will make bricks to coat the front of our fireplace. And I'm not sure if we'll get to the hearth and the mantle next week, or if that will be the following week. We'll see. So come back next week and see how this all comes together. Be sure and check the blog post. I'll have more information there, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.